Imagine being a U.S. citizen, serving in the military, paying taxes, and following federal laws, yet having no voice in choosing the president of your own country. For the 3.4 million residents of Puerto Rico, this isn't just a hypothetical, it's a reality. Today we're diving into one of the most controversial and often misunderstood aspects of American democracy. Why are Puerto Ricans, despite their U.S. citizenship, excluded from presidential elections? This question goes beyond politics and reaches into the heart of what it means to be truly represented. If you're curious about the twists and turns of history, law, and identity that have led to this situation, stick with us. And don't forget to hit subscribe if you love learning about the hidden stories behind global politics. Recently, Puerto Rico came into the spotlight after comedian Tony Hinchcliffe made offensive comments about the island during a campaign event for Donald Trump, referring to Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage in the ocean. This remark stirred widespread anger in the Puerto Rican community, highlighting the deep-seated frustrations many feel toward their relationship with the mainland United States. Though Trump's campaign quickly distanced itself from the comment, it reignited debates over Puerto Rico's status and treatment within the U.S. For many Puerto Ricans, remarks like these underscore what they perceive as a broader issue of discrimination and a lack of respect from Washington. Although Puerto Ricans are U.S. citizens, a status granted in 1917 through the Jones-Shafroth Act, their voting rights come with limitations. The 3.4 million American citizens residing on the island can participate in presidential primaries, helping select party candidates. However, when it comes to the general election, the vote that ultimately determines the next president, they have no voice. Puerto Rico is not alone in this. Other U.S. territories like Guam, the Northern Mariana Islands, and the U.S. Virgin Islands face similar restrictions. Ironically, Puerto Ricans who move to any of the 50 states or Washington, D.C. can immediately participate in presidential elections. What do you think? Should U.S. citizens in Puerto Rico have the right to vote in presidential elections? Drop a comment below. And don't forget to subscribe for more deep dives on global issues. So, why can't Puerto Ricans vote for the U.S. president? The primary reason lies within the U.S. Constitution, which specifies that only states are represented in the Electoral College, the body that elects the president. Territories, including Puerto Rico, are not given electoral votes, meaning Puerto Ricans are excluded from this fundamental aspect of American democracy. The Electoral College was established in 1787, a time when the United States had just gained independence from Britain, and Puerto Rico was still a Spanish colony. The Constitution's authors couldn't have foreseen the United States acquiring territories like Puerto Rico, Guam, or the U.S. Virgin Islands. As a result, there's no clear constitutional framework to integrate these territories fully into the voting process, leaving Puerto Rico in a unique and somewhat ambiguous position. To understand Puerto Rico's unusual status, let's go back to 1898. That year, the United States defeated Spain in the Spanish-American War, claiming Puerto Rico as part of the spoils under the Treaty of Paris. American troops occupied the island, and Puerto Rico was placed under U.S. sovereignty. However, becoming a U.S. territory did not grant Puerto Ricans full constitutional rights. In 1901, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in a series of decisions known as the insular cases that Puerto Rico and other territories would remain in a state of limbo until Congress decided otherwise. According to Professor Luis Fuentes Rover from Harvard, these rulings portrayed the people of these territories as primitive and unworthy of full rights, reflecting the racial prejudices of the time. These insular cases established the legal foundation for treating Puerto Rico differently, a stance that, controversially, remains intact. Despite criticism from historians and legal experts, the Supreme Court has never overturned these rulings, leaving Puerto Rico in a permanent state of semi-inclusion within the United States. In 1940, the Nationality Act confirmed U.S. citizenship for all Puerto Ricans. Then, in 1952, the U.S. allowed Puerto Rico to adopt a limited form of self-governance, officially becoming a Commonwealth or Estado Libre Asociado. This arrangement permitted Puerto Rico to draft its own constitution and establish local governance, including electing a governor and legislature. However, this autonomy came with significant limitations. Washington retained control over essential matters such as defense, international relations, and border control. Despite having a local government, Puerto Ricans still lacked voting power in federal elections and did not have full representation in Congress. Unlike U.S. states, Puerto Rico's representation in Congress is limited. The island has a resident commissioner who can attend sessions and participate in committee discussions in the House of Representatives. However, they cannot vote on final legislation. This means Puerto Rico has a voice but lacks real power in the legislative process. Without voting representation in Congress, Puerto Ricans have limited influence over federal laws that directly impact them. For many, this exclusion feels like a form of political disenfranchisement, reinforcing their perception as second-class citizens within the U.S. Over the years, Puerto Rico has held numerous referendums asking residents about their preferred status, statehood, independence, or remaining a commonwealth. In the most recent referendum in 2020, a majority voted in favor of statehood. Proponents argue that statehood would finally grant Puerto Ricans full voting rights, access to federal funds, and equal representation. However, these referendums are non-binding, and many have been controversial, with low voter turnout and questions about their legitimacy. Additionally, Congress has shown little interest in changing Puerto Rico's status. Statehood would not only shift the political balance by adding representatives and senators from Puerto Rico, but it would also introduce economic challenges, given the island's financial struggles. For many Puerto Ricans, the lack of political power feels like a symptom of a larger problem: Washington's lack of commitment to addressing the island's economic and social issues. Puerto Rico has faced an economic crisis for over 2 decades, with high unemployment, public debt, and deteriorating infrastructure. This economic hardship has forced many young Puerto Ricans to migrate to the mainland in search of better opportunities. When Hurricane Maria struck Puerto Rico in 2017, the island's vulnerable infrastructure was laid bare. The slow and inadequate response from the federal government left many residents feeling abandoned by Washington, fueling the perception of Puerto Rico as a neglected colony. This crisis intensified calls for Puerto Ricans to be granted full political rights, or for Puerto Rico to reconsider its status within the U.S. The frustrations over Puerto Rico's lack of voting rights, economic instability, and limited political power have contributed to the rise of an independence movement. This movement, driven primarily by younger generations, questions the benefits of Puerto Rico's current relationship with the U.S. For the first time, a pro-independence candidate, Juan Dalmau, has gained significant support, showing that a growing segment of Puerto Ricans are considering independence as a viable alternative. This sentiment reflects a desire for Puerto Ricans to control their own destiny without the limitations imposed by Washington. Ronald Avila Claudio, an expert on Puerto Rico, notes that many young Puerto Ricans feel disillusioned with the current system, viewing it as a relationship that offers limited opportunities and little attention from the U.S. government. Despite its political limitations, Puerto Rico makes significant contributions to the U.S. economy. According to Trading Economics, island's gross domestic product, GDP, was approximately $117.9 billion in 2023, representing about 0.11% of the world economy. Key industries include manufacturing, particularly pharmaceuticals and electronics, which play a vital role in the U.S. supply chain. Pharmaceutical production alone makes up a significant portion of the island's GDP, with Puerto Rican facilities supplying roughly 30% of all drugs consumed in the U.S. mainland. In fact, more than half of Puerto Rico's exports to the mainland are pharmaceuticals, highlighting the island's economic importance in the health sector. However, Puerto Rico faces substantial economic challenges. The island has been grappling with a prolonged economic crisis, marked by high unemployment rates and a public debt exceeding $70 billion. This financial strain has led to austerity measures and cuts in public services, exacerbating social issues and prompting many residents to migrate to the mainland in search of better opportunities. For many Puerto Ricans, the issue of voting rights is tied deeply to cultural identity and the island's ongoing struggle for self-determination. Puerto Rico's culture blends Spanish, African, Taíno, and American influences, giving it a unique identity that is distinct from that of the mainland U.S. Many Puerto Ricans feel a strong connection to the island's heritage and see themselves as a distinct community within the broader American framework. The struggle over political status often centers on questions of identity. Supporters of independence argue that Puerto Rico should be free to determine its own destiny, free from U.S. influence. Meanwhile, proponents of statehood see it as a way to achieve equality within the U.S. system, ensuring that Puerto Ricans have the same rights and protections as other U.S. citizens. This identity divide complicates the issue and makes the future of Puerto Rico's status an emotionally charged topic. So, why can't Puerto Ricans vote in presidential elections? The answer lies in a complex web of history, legal precedents, and political maneuvering. Puerto Rico's status as a U.S. territory, rooted in a colonial past, has left it in a gray area, connected to the United States, yet lacking full rights and representation. And until there is a significant shift in Congress, Puerto Rico's residents will continue to grapple with the challenges of being American citizens without full American rights. If you found this discussion insightful, please give this video a thumbs up and remember to subscribe for more deep dives into complex geopolitical issues.